Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Today I'm sharing with you guys my updated Mechikabura wish deck list. This is a deck that I recommended to you guys in the top 5 rogue decks video for July. And honestly, this is probably the strongest deck of the bunch in my opinion. We've been doing a lot of talking lately about the pillars of the Ultimate Squad format, and this deck checks a lot of those boxes. You have great 1-drops, you have great deflect boss monsters, you have a built-in floodgate, and you have main deck answers to floodgates, among other things. This deck's really strong, guys. I'll show you guys my list in today's video, and towards the end I'll even talk about some matchup stuff that I've been learning with the deck. I've been putting a lot of time into this one actually, so I'm pretty happy to show it to you guys. Anyways, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, never miss a Dragon Ball Super video, and if you guys want to help support the channel, there are many ways to do so down in the description. But for the foreseeable future, I'll be plugging my own independently published comic book, New Mafia Genesis. If you guys want to check out what I'm talking about, I'm creating my own comic book. The link for that is down in the description. You guys can read about the story there, you guys can meet the characters, and if you guys want to help support me, you can do that using the Indiegogo link, and I really do appreciate it, guys. Anyways, let's get into this profile. We have the leader here, and of course, like towards the end of the video and after a bit of time this thing's been up, I'll post a link to the deck list down in the pinned comment. But anyways, for the leader, we have very simple. On the unawakened side, when you attack, search 2 Dragon Balls, and there are specific archetype Dragon Balls for this deck. The wish or awaken is when you have 7 Dragon Balls in your drop, you can untap one and draw one, which is actually so good in this deck for a reason we'll talk about later. And you also get to warp a battle card out of your opponent's drop. So this is really big drop area interruption heavy, which we don't really see a whole lot of in the meta. There are actually a lot of sideboard cards that most decks can play that can do this type of thing, but the fact this leader in this deck has it built in is actually so good against so many matchups. Like, this deck is actually a Bulma Slayer, which some of you guys might be looking for ever since it won the Philly Regional. This deck honestly tears Bulma apart because, one, you're messing with their drop area, so their bunny girl plays aren't really worth it, and the backside of the leader is also super good. So attack, draw a card, you can bottom deck a card in your hand to steal one of their battle cards that costs 4 or less. So you're taking their battle cards, you're taking their blockers in the Bulma matchup, for example. That's super high value. And the other effect is you can remove the 7 Dark Dragon Balls from your drop to give your leader triple attack, which is, you know, a potential win con. So leader's super good. Also worth noting, the auto to draw is not once per turn. So when you do triple attack, you're drawing 3 cards. That's really big. Anyways, getting into the main deck, we have our 7 Dark Dragon Balls. So we're playing 4 copies of Dark Empire Strikes Back. Pitch a ball or any of your other demon cards to draw 2, and then your opponent warps a battle card out of their drop. And then yearning for the Dark Dragon Balls is combos for 5k, but can also just be played to make your opponent warp a 1-drop on their board. So again, pretty decent in the Bulma matchup. Making them warp their battle cards, their blockers, is good, but of course this is gonna be good in other random scenarios if your opponent has a pesky 1-drop. But most of the time, I do just pitch yearning for the Dark Dragon Balls off of Dark Empire Strikes Back. Then we have 1 copy of Dark King Mechikabura, Power Restored. So I started off my list with 2 of this, and the more I've played with it, the more I think it's just like a power 1 of that can sometimes be really good. Like, it's really good against green, for example, because they can't hit it with charismatic, and if you swing with this, they'll dormant, but they still have to deal with this attack in some way, which is pretty good. But in a lot of other scenarios, there's a better boss monster we're playing that we'll see. But I like this as 1 of. I would actually side a 2nd copy, probably for green matchups. Then we have 4 copies of Salsa Ritual at hand, 4 copies of Demon God Toa Ritual at hand, and 4 copies of Shroom, or sorry, 3 copies of Shroom Ritual at hand. So these guys all have a similar effect that say activate main, pay a black. If you have 2 or more Dark Dragon Balls in your drop, you can play them for 1, and then you can dump up to 2 Dragon Balls from your deck if you would like to. Then they all have different autos. Salsa, on play, your opponent warps a card in their hand, draws 1. Attack, warp a card in their drop area, then draw 1 yourself. Demon God Toa, on play, make your opponent warp a card in their hand, draw, and then they draw 1, and then Toa can actually warp any battle card on the board short of barrier, so that's really good. And then Shroom is a little bit more niche, but he's good against your lower to the ground aggro matchups. When he swings, you can warp a battle card out of your opponent's drop and then warp one of their battle cards on the board, cost 3 or less. Main thing here is, though, they all help you get awakened. So what I always try to do with this deck is time my awaken to turn 3. So depending on how many balls I have in my opening hand, I can use either of these guys' effects to dump additional Dragon Balls to the drop if I need to. Again, just so I can time my awaken to turn 3 specifically. Then we have 4 copies of Super Mira Overflowing Power. So this unison is actually sleeper crazy good in this deck. So this is how it all works, right? When your leader takes a battle card, that battle card becomes skillless. Mira has a +1 that says remove one of your skillless battle cards from the game, which you'll get when you steal your opponent's battle cards. Then you can warp any of your opponent's battle cards, again short of barrier, and then draw a card. So every time you do that, you're basically removing 2 battle cards from your opponent's board for absolutely free, because your leader will bottom deck a card, which results in a -1, but then Mira will draw you the card back, which makes you net 0, and you just remove 2 of your opponent's battle cards. It's very, very value. The +2 to make tokens, or sorry, the +1 to make tokens is also still very good. You can turn those into blockers with this unison, as well as the battle cards you steal from your opponent. You can turn those into blockers as well with Mira's auto. So playing this on 3 and then being able to awaken, having that 1 energy up for defense is actually just crazy, crazy good. Like, it's a very good curve. Then we have 3 petrification. Just one of the best cards black can play against all these crazy boss monsters, so we are playing the 3 copies. I think it's just a staple at this point in this type of deck. And we have 4 copies of Demon God Poutine Ritual at hand. This is our archetype Slugate Negate, so we're playing 4 copies. Then we have 3 copies of Support of the Dark Empire, just more defense. We are playing a 60 card list, by the way, so there's a lot of stuff in here. It seems like Wish decks now, especially ones that search 2 per turn, 2 balls per turn, can get away with playing 60, and I really have not had consistency issues with this. It's felt really good, actually, because again, like this drawing 2 every single time the Dark Empire strikes back, drawing 2 every time, filters through the deck very, very quickly, so that feels pretty good. Then we have 1 copy of Ginyu the Body Snatcher. So this card can be played for free when you sacrifice a battle card that you took control of from your opponent, and it's 20k double strike. So this is essentially a King Piccolo New Ruler in this deck without the ability to get around blockers, but still free play 20k, kind of like an Overwhelm. It's very, very good. Then we have 1 copy of Champa, just of course for ending games in a sneaky fashion. 1 copy of Shenron the Wish Granter. Honestly, this is like probably the most cuttable card, but against like green and red, they can't do much to stop this, and they also can't do much to limit your leader, especially with some sideboard tech that I'll show a little bit later. But yeah, play this, give your leader +15 in triple strike. With that triple attack can lead to some cool combos, especially if you get to a situation where your opponent's low on resources. This can just like swing the entire game into your favor, which is pretty cool. So again, like kind of cuttable, kind of cute, just like thematic with the leader, but I think it's still pretty much worth playing at 1. Then for the SCR choice, I am actually going with Kai of Time, Space Time Unraveler. I think this is the best SCR to play in this deck. There are just so many powerful unisons that being able to remove is just that crazy good. I think another good option for this deck is Brainwash Kai, which can limit the amount of attacks your opponent can throw at you, but I really just don't want to let my opponent's unison go unchecked. I want to have this SCR in my deck so that I can remove unisons if need be. 2 copies of King Vegeta, A Kingdom Lost. This card is incredibly insane in this deck. Only reason I'm running 2 is because of the unique tag, but sometimes you can even play this card on turn 2, which is just so insane. The card's incredibly, incredibly good. 1 copy of Brainwash. So this is kind of like the Final Flash logic, just keeping your opponents honest. You can always pay 1 to basically negate an entire attack's worth of damage, but this is actually our only Overwhelm in the deck, and the fact that it's a free 30k makes it a really big final attack when we need it. So it actually does serve that multi-purpose in the deck, being a free 30k attacker as well as stopping a key point of damage if we need to. Then we have 2 copies of Darkness Judgment. Man, sometimes honestly I want to play the full 4. This is so good in matchups like Gamma, even sometimes against Trunks Vegeta, where they're just swinging a ton with like 19k or less battle cards. Just giving your leader essentially a Senzu Bean is very, very good. I do have 2 more in my side deck for that exact reason, but for the main deck, and with how kind of tight this list is, 2 has felt like the most I can run in the main at least. 2 copies of Dark King Devilish Dominator. So this is the boss monster I was talking about when compared to Mechikabura Power Restored. This guy just feels more impactful in more cases because they kind of have to negate him, right? He's a triple striker, so they have to negate him. They're going to warp a life, and then he can even restand if he gets negated if they have enough cards in their warp, which in this deck is very easy to make them do. So yeah, I felt like this card has been a bit more impactful than Power Restored. That's why I had these ratios like this. Then we have 4 copies of BMS. So when's the last time you saw BMS at 4 in a main deck? I wanted this in the deck because against a matchup like Bulma or any super control heavy deck, they're probably going to stall our life, and we want to make sure we can get to 4 in key scenarios. Besides that, BMS has been notably good against Gamma and Yellow Trunks because those decks don't really have the ability to remove this easily in the first 3 turns. So Yellow Trunks, you'll prevent them from playing their 1-drops and finding other 1-drops, as well as their Awakened Side Leaders effect. And they have to kind of jump through some hoops to get this thing into rest mode to be able to kill it. Against Gamma, yes, they have Beerus Destroys, but if you really want to keep BMS alive, you can constantly swing at their unison so they don't have a defensive step to use Realm of the Gods Beerus, and that'll keep your BMS on board. This has actually won me some matchups against Gamma, kind of like single-handedly, believe it or not. Then we have 2 copies of Super Kamehameha. So one of the reasons we want BMS in our deck to make sure we can get to 4 when we need to. This is our main deck answer to floodgates like Poutine, like Topo, like Robotic Post, stuff like that. 4 copies of Prince Strikes Back. I really wanted to be able to play this super combo, but I couldn't do it if I didn't have control over my life. And again, BMS gives us access to that. Then we have, I'll just hop out of the creator screen here. We have 4 copies of Guardian of Space-Time super combo, essentially. This card honestly has been the best recent addition to the deck. Giving us that finishing power as well as the ability to combo out of big attacks has been absolutely incredible. And then the final addition to the main deck, which again has been very, very good, I've been fine-tuning this quite a bit, guys, is Sin Shenron Negative Energy Explosion. So this is from the Sin Mill deck. It's a deflect, double strike, barrier, blocker. This whole auto does not mean anything. Activate main / battle once per turn, spirit boost 1, switches card to active mode, and your opponent places top deck of their deck in the drop area. So this is a dual attack double strike barrier. This is a double blocking double strike barrier. Like however you need to use it, you can use it in that way. It is the fact that it is barrier is incredible in the Yellow Trunks matchup. Makes it very hard for your opponent to remove. So we do have like a lot of barrier in this deck between Kingdom Lost and Sin Shenron that make it tough for our opponent to deal with our board. Now for side deck ideas, 3rd Super Kami, just when you need it for floodgates. Koitsukai, bigger floodgates like Ready to Rumble, the SSG Goku Miraculous Transformation. 2 more Doctor's Judgment just for when you need that bean type of effect. I'm gonna actually move myself to the other side of the screen real quick. All right, here we go. So we have 2 copies of Hunt of the Demon God. So this is going to be the card you can play when you need to answer a card like Dormant Potential, right? So this is going to be great in your green matchups. 2 copies of Mechikabura the Broken Seal whenever you need to basically shut off an engine that your opponent's playing. Card's incredible. 2 copies of Ultimate - Energy Powerball. Some really random rogue matchups where this can be okay. Like AOD, for example, you can warp their 1-drop Bobbity from the board. There are just other scenarios where this card is like sleeper good. It's also good against Bulma. You can warp their Mize off the board as well when they swing, so that's good. This is more of a test card. I don't know how much I love it yet, but we have Demon God Shroom, Imperial Warrior. So the thing with this card is you can play him for 1 when you have any skill list. So if you stole a battle card or have a token from your unison, you can play this for 1, and then this is going to allow you to remove the Trunks Future on the Line in the Yellow Trunks Vegeta matchup. That card can be very pesky. This card can remove it. It's still something I'm trying out. It is a bit frustrating that it's a 2-card combo, so if I don't open the unison in my first 3 turns, this Shroom is unfortunately pretty dead in my hand. But the sideboard theory is, in that matchup or any matchup with barrier that you need to kill, you can side out 3 Shroom Ritual at hand and just side in 3 Shroom Imperial Warrior. So that's the idea, at least. And then the 1 extra power restored for those green matchups, because again, like swinging this into a dormant is good because they got to deal with 30k double strike, and it gets around Frieza Charismatic Villain. So that's my list, guys. Lots of work been put into it. Again, Bulma has been a very positive matchup. U7, surprisingly, is also a pretty decent matchup, even though a lot of my effects can't warp their drop. The defenses of this deck are pretty tough for your opponent to get around. All the barrier also makes your board very sticky, and we have an inherent answer to Ultra Mastery and their SSB Vegeta SCR if they swing with it, so that all feels really good. GT also feels good. Gamma and Trunks have been a bit 50-50. Trunks has honestly been the tougher matchup, to be honest, because I haven't quite found the best way to deal with their board yet. Black does have a little bit of a problem with barrier removal, that's for sure. Again, this hasn't quite worked out in the scenarios where I don't open my unison. That's a big problem, but still working on it, guys. But I want to share a bit of that matchup info with you all. I've been really liking this deck. This, in my opinion, has high potential as a rogue pick. I've really been liking it. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.